Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to part 4 in my TRS-80 Model 16B restoration series. So tonight we're going to focus on storage, specifically floppy drives and floppy emulators. And we're going to take this 8-inch floppy drive out, and we're going to lubricate everything and just make sure it's up to snuff, but I don't have any 8-inch media to test it, so the whole point tonight is really just to make sure it's not seized up. I may throw it back in the machine and power it up and see if it does the head seek when it's done, but we'll see how that goes. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to put together this floppy adapter, this NF6X 34-pin to 50-pin floppy adapter. I've got the parts to stuff that. So we'll do that, and we'll connect a floppy emulator to it, and we'll see if the machine will boot. As part of that process, we're going to have to put in the hard disk interface card, because it has the extra 16K of RAM on it that's necessary to boot TRSDOS-II. And so my plan there is we'll boot TRSDOS up, we'll see if it passes the basic diagnostics that are part of the boot up routine, and then if that works well, we'll throw the Model 2 1216 diagnostics disk in the emulator and see if we can run some more comprehensive diagnostics on it on the Z80 side. If all that checks out, we'll move on to the 68,000 piece, otherwise we'll see what we can do to troubleshoot the Z80 side. So thanks for joining me, and let's get to it. Alright, so we're going to disconnect the power, I'm going to take the top off of this, and we're going to get started. Alright, to remove the drive, I'm going to have to remove the drive cage, and there are 2 screws over on this side, hopefully you can see that, and there's 2 back here, and I just have 3 on this side actually, and I've got to be careful not to drop any into the power supply, and I can see that this is going to be a tweezer job getting some of those back in. So anyway, let's get these out. There we go. Floppy drive bay out. There was a 4th screw in here that I missed, so I had to get a smaller screwdriver to help me with, but we have the bays out. Alright, so with the drive cage out, it looks like there are 4 screws that hold the drive in. There's 2 on the top here, and 2 on the bottom. These 2 on the side look like they hold the cage in place, so let's see what we can do with these. So this thing had some shielding on the side of it that I managed to pull along with me. We'll just put that back where it belongs. There we go. So I pulled that out, so I have to be careful when I put the drive in. But there's the bracket. Time to get started on that floppy drive. And what we're going to do here is see if I can get the circuitry off here, all the electronics off, get these disconnected, and if I can get the board off easily enough, there's some corrosion stuff on the side of the drive that I kind of want to address, so we'll address that. I think I had an abrasive sponge there we'll hit that with, and it's actually kind of on the inside here too, so that I might try and Q-tip off. I really don't want to get in there with a sponge, but we'll see if it comes off and dry it up before it, just corrodes again. And then we're going to try and lubricate there's the assembly here, it's kind of squeaky. Sounds like that sound your parents made that you didn't want to know what it was, or hopefully if you were in the age of blissful ignorance didn't know what it was. But anyway, it does make this noise, so we're going to have to fix that. And I do want to get to the head rails under here, and we'll put some light white lithium on those. And we want to run some isopropyl over the heads, and that should be it. So let's get to it. Alright, here we are. It's later in the evening, got a little vino here. Nice local red wine. There we go, there's the board. Alright, I didn't have to loosen these. I thought I might have for a second, but I got wise to it quick. Alright, so what I'm going to do is actually just going to move this to the side for a second. We'll brush this board off. Not bad. Okay, I'm happy with that. It really wasn't bad anyway. Since it sits like this, there's not a whole lot that gets on there, but see this side here, Some of this side of the components was a little rough, in fact, actually. There we go. Okay, now I'm happy with it. So, this is going to move off to the side, the drive's going to come back, and we're going to see what we can do with that. Alright, first things first, what I want to do is, on the outsides, I just want to go over this with a wet sponge, and I want to get some paper towels to dry this off. This isn't really going to lift up, but I should be able to get in there. And just blow this off. Alright, blow that off. Lubricate the host. Alright. Let me get the heads. Okay, now for lubrication. And the way that I plan to do this, there's a single rail here. This coil, I don't know that it needs much, but I might just throw a little. I have white lithium grease that's very thin. And what I'm going to do is I like to apply it with a cotton swab. I don't like to spray in these things. And that even includes in the motor. I may not even bother. We'll see if the head moves, but yeah, the head does move. Okay, so the head moves, so what I'll probably do is I'll put a little drip of it in there with a paper towel around it so as not to contaminate the heads or anything, just a little drip and let it sit and go back and forth with it. And then what we'll do is we'll grease the rail, and I might throw a little on the spring here just to kind of ease up the movement, but it actually does seem to move okay, so I'm pretty confident that if the electronics work when we get this drive in the machine, it will actually seek. When you power on a Model 2, 12, 16 line machine, or 6000, it does a seek to track 5 and back to 0. So I should at least get a seek out of it even if I don't have a disc to test it with. So we're going to grab another cup to put the lubricant in, and we're going to break out the swabs and do one more little bit here and see what we can get. I'm hoping that this drive at least has enough life in it that it's going to coax me to find some 8-inch discs and try them out. It would be neat to have one of these machines with the actual 8-inch drive working. I wouldn't use it often, but, I mean, who doesn't like to see 8-inch discs, right? And there you have it, a lubricated, cleaned Tandem TM848. Whether the alignment on the heads is good or anything else, who knows, but at least it is in a position where I can put it back in the machine and I can try it out and we'll see if it actually powers up and doesn't blow the machine up. So that's next. Drive reassembly time. This time I removed both brackets. Last time I kind of undid one end and slid the drive out, but to get this back in I thought it might be easier. I'll put the shield in and align it. And then what we're going to do is align the drive, and just kind of. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this side. We're going to shove one of the screws all the way through, align that first screw hole, and that should basically make everything else line up. That is the drive reinstalled in the cage. All mounts installed. Let's get it back in the machine. Alright, we're all ready to go. Drive's mounted, and time to connect the power supply interface cable. Apologize for the weird light. Lights are all over there, and we're over here, so here we go. Let's do the interface cable first. So, pin 1, that way, and then... Okay, we're connected, and that's it. Drive's connected. Alright, so now we're going to connect the CRT and the video, and then we should be ready to test this out, and this will be interesting. I'm curious to see what happens here. Alright, said it was time to test it out, but one thing I forgot, realized as I was walking around with the camera, is this CRT power is not connected. Must connect that. Okay, now everything is connected. Ground, CRT, the interface side, put this back so there's not stress on the cable, the grounds, the power, the drive. Okay, let's see what happens. See if the drive seeks. It spins. It says insert diskette. Ooh, and it made the seek noise. Alright. So now that the drive's working, I have a little surprise. I have a TRSDOS disc floating around. It's the only disc I have. And looking at it, it doesn't look like it's in terrible shape, so we're going to see if it boots. I'm just going to throw it in the drive and see what happens. Worst case, I'll have to clean the drive again anyway, but throw caution to the wind. Oh, it's doing something because it sees the disc. Yeah. Ooh, diagnostics passed. Alright, that's a good thing too. I was thinking about, whether I was going to get past PIO chips and CTCs. Oh, look at this. TRSDOS-II OA boots from a floppy disk from God knows when. Wow, alright, so that's really good. The floppy drive works, and I'm going to clean it again, just because if I get some real media, I don't know what this just did to it, but that's really good. The floppy drive works, so if I can clean the drive and get some good 8-inch media, it might be worth keeping this floppy drive operational. This is my only working 8-inch floppy. I haven't even tried the 2 in my 16A. Never bothered with them. Don't know if they work. But this is very good. I'm really excited about this. So the next step for this machine is we're going to get the 50 to 34 pin floppy drive adapter stuffed with parts. We're going to get it soldered together. And then what we're going to do is throw a Lotharek in here, and we're going to run the diagnostic test on it. Let's move on to the 50 to 34 pin floppy adapter, shall we? That's it. So let's see here. I believe, I'm going to double check these. I'm going to see what we have here, but I'm going to put these on and how I think they are, and I'm going to double check jumper configurations, and then we're going to hook up a floppy drive to this 16 and we're going to get to it. Test this interface out. Alrighty, so now that we have the adapter built, I've got a 50 pin cable running from the floppy connector over to my adapter, which is right now just kind of floating here. and it's plugged into the Lothrec. This is my Model 12's Lothrec. There's a TRSDOS-II image mounted. It's plugged in and ready to go. So I also put in the Type 2 hard disk adapter because it's got the extra 16K in it. So if it doesn't work out of the box, I'll pull it back out and make sure we've got the mapping right so that the memory maps to the right pages in the Model 2 memory map. But I think it's time to power this up. If it starts, what I'll probably do is flip it over to TRSDOS-II. That's TRSDOS-II, or 4.0 or 4.2, and we'll see if it boots with that. Alright, here we go. Moment of truth. Alright, here's seeking, that's good. Alright, just like with the real floppy drive, we have a memory test, we have initializing, and let's see if we can get a date prompt. Excellent. Perfect. Alright, so the system gets that far. Let's see what happens if I flip it over to TRSDOS-II. That's TRSDOS-II version 4.2. Alright, with TRSDOS 4.2.5 mounted, we'll hit the reset button and see what happens. That sounds good. Ooh, yes, okay. If we get this far, that means the extra 16K is mapped in the right place. So, from a Z80 perspective, I think this machine is in good enough shape to button back up. We'll set the emulator up and the keyboard outside of it, and then we'll boot the TRSDOS diagnostic disk and do some tests on it. And if those all come out good, we'll move on to the 68,000 side of things. So before we button this up, there's two things left we have to do. The first is I want to adjust the vertical size on this and make sure I can get this to be much more square, closer to the top and bottom of the screen. I did this on my Model 12, and I didn't actually do it in video, so we're going to do it in video form now, and I hope I don't mess it up. The second thing we're going to do with the machine not on is we're going to connect the turbofan mod and hope that works. So, and then once that's done, the cover is going to go back on, but the screws will not go back in, and we'll start running some diagnostics on it. This way, if I have to take it apart for any reason because of diagnostic issues, we can do that without having to deal with all the screws again. So first things first, I'm going to adjust the vertical size in this, and I don't know which way is which, but I'm going to imagine that if I turn it clockwise, that's going to make it bigger, but we're going to see how this goes. Ooh, yep, just a small amount. Okay, a little more. Oh, I think I like exactly how that is. I could go a little more, but I feel like that's actually pretty much what I was hoping for. Right about centered, just big enough to use the entire screen. I could always shrink it back down a little bit, but this seems more appropriate. I mean, I've got all the screen real estate, why not use it? Okay, so with that done, let's hook up the turbofan. Just for the curious, I watch my fingers here, but there's three controls you can see here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little better so you can actually see it. There's one right under this cable here. There's one in the middle, and this guy. The V size is the guy in the middle, so it's this one right here. So you have to be careful. Insulate your fingers or something. I didn't want to use a metal tool because if I slipped with that, I'd just short it out and mess it up. So rather than do that, just cover your fingers. And alright, the case is back on. Not screwed down, but it is back on. And if we go around back here, you'll see the cover, back cover is attached here, and I have the turbofan mod on. These aren't all the way tight. Because the case isn't together, I wanted to be careful, but I wanted to put it together. So this way it's there. One thing about the turbofan mod, this cord is just short enough that you have to kind of finagle it a bit to be able to get it on there and get the cord tucked in. So I have a floppy cable hanging out of the bottom here. This is actually not on the expansion connector. This is connected directly to the main connector on the motherboard, and I'm going to just connect it to this NF6X adapter, which is already connected to the Model 12's Lothrec, and then we're going to boot the thing up with diagnostics. Alright, well the diag disk is loaded, and we're just going to power this up, but I actually think that this is a good point to stop. This video is going to get a little long, so I'm going to break this going to break it here and we're going to rearrange. Part 5 will now be diagnostics and troubleshooting. And then if that all goes well, Part 6 will be starting to look at the 68,000 boards, get those checked out, make sure they're configured right, and then run some basic diagnostics on those. So until next time, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.